Okay, good morning, people. When I start the recording, normally it so happens that a few people are removed. That happens basically because of the fact that these people do not consent to the recording of the meeting. So whenever you get a pop-up message from my side, particularly that this meeting is being recorded, do you agree? You should say that you agree. In that case, you will stay in the meeting. Those who don't agree, obviously, would be put out of the meeting, and they would have to rejoin again as such. Well, before we go into what you're seeing on the screens, I had a hand up raised by, I suppose, Gopal Tare, and I would ask him if he had any issues or it was just an accident that he raised his hand otherwise. We did not have our lecture yesterday because of the fact that uh, I had a open counseling round for FIVA and I was busy in the college. So that's the reason we did not have a lecture yesterday. About college reopening, yes, there is a lot of confusion and people are really worried. And many of the parents and students are asking a question that if schools are starting, why is it that college has not started? And that's why I suppose there was a announcement from the government side that they would be opening yesterday. Having said that, we know that yesterday was a Maharashtra Bandh and then they shifted it to today. And but you'll see that today's newspaper carries the news saying that though uh, it was to be yesterday, the university did not come up with a notification that colleges should be starting. At the same time, remember that the classrooms have been non-functional for nearly 1.5 years of time right now. So classrooms would require cleaning and sanitation all put together. Then, of course, the notification of the government says that a student coming to the college should have uh, taken both the uh, so to say, vaccination doses. Now, having said that, it so happens that most of y'all would be just around 18, and the government says that it's only 18 plus who would be given doses. So there is, as I said, there is a lot of confusion about what is going to happen. But on the say medical side, it would be better that we would go ahead with the uh, doses and in some time from now obviously uh, I would say that the offline classes would be starting now. A few clarifications as to how you should be perceiving these things as such. If you remember, last week we started with geography and we said that geography is supposed to be mother of all sciences, the reason being a fact that it applies to every aspect, and that's why a geographer gets into a habit of trying to analyze a lot of things that tend to happen around him. So I was just wondering as to why is it that schools have opened and colleges are skeptical about opening it or throwing it open to the students as such. When I analyzed and when I spoke to a few people, I found out that, well, the whole school is not open, the first thing to say. It's only that 8th to 12th in urban areas and 5th to 12th in rural areas as such. So the whole school is not open, that's one thing. And you'll see that even if, unfortunately, even if it so happens that there tend to be a higher number of cases immediately after the reopening of the schools, and the schools have to be shut down. Okay, you'll see that all these students belong to local areas. Okay, it's not that somebody is studying in the school and comes from Ahmednagar or Nashik or Aurangabad or Gadchiroli, etc. Isn't it? And as a consequence, an immediate step, if we take that, okay, it's not right time, so we once again close the schools, so you can go back, students can go back to their homes and sit back. Okay, I pray this should not happen. And obviously, we see that the initial trends show that it's not going to happen. But as far as the college side is concerned, Yes. So now look at the college side. That okay, if even if the college, we for sure know that the college hostels are not open, and obviously a college's hostel does not accommodate all the students from outstation places for any particular college as such. So they search for what is called as PG, okay, the residential places as such, okay, paying guest sort of thing. Okay, as a consequence, now when you come from a place which is beyond Pune into Pune, okay, let us assume it's a minimum of 100 kilometers and beyond. You have to look for your hosteling. That's of course lodging and boarding and mess facilities and so on and so forth. And suddenly it so happens that we have to shut it down, then it would be a real a mess for that particular students. I believe not more than 25% of the students are in that particular way. But we have to consider all the possibilities in that in that particular place. Yeah, Gopal Tare has now posted me a message saying that I was coming to that. But since he has posted it, let me just read it out to you. Sir, if the college open, then vaccination is compulsory for every student, obviously, because you'll see that a place like a college is a public place, and the fact that hundreds of students would be coming together, and they would be coming from sorry, different places. Who knows who's carrying what infections with them. As a consequence, it is compulsory. In fact, this week, those who are coming to college, if you have read the notices carefully, would be required to collect their iCards. Now, I further understand that there is a problem as far as this Janavi Bhoir is having some problem as far as joining is concerned. She's trying to join, and she's uh, yeah, I do understand, Gopal, that maximum students have taken only one dose as such. So I would in fact suggest all of y'all to not to rush to the college immediately. We have some time in our hands. So within a week's time, you could schedule your doses. I was reading a news item yesterday that the government is going to come up with facilities at college level itself to vaccinate students, but let us not go into finding much of information and details into that particular news. If you have any facility around your residence, it would be better that you take up your second doses and see that you are completely vaccinated, so that the risk of again getting infected with COVID-19 is minimized, I would say. So that is what the present scenario is. And if you ask me, I had posted a message on the group also, that if you ask me, I would say that unless and until you are very near to the college and you could go back within 20-25, half an hour. Okay, and of course, if you are having your own vehicle, it's only that case that I would ask you all to come to the college, check for what the situation is for your say, and then you could tell the others also that okay, we find this to be fine and so on and so forth. But as I said that you still don't have your roll numbers, I would still say that for a couple of days we should be still continuing online and from our respective homes, and let us see how the situation turns up in a couple of days to be on the safer side. Okay. Yes, I won't say we should be over cautious, but yes, we have to be cautious certainly as such. Well, then I think I have shared enough of the current news information with you all with regards the college status. Okay, so and let me tell you that practicals will not start immediately. So there is no question of coming at 7 o'clock in the morning. That we are now linked on WhatsApp groups, the respective teachers and the respective in charge of the respective subject at your FI level will obviously be informing you about what is to be done as far as practical, etc. is concerned. But my experience asked me to say that don't worry, practicals will not start immediately. Let us start with the lectures first, and then a couple of days down the line, after that, we could start with the practicals also. Till then, we would certainly be continuing with say online lectures. Okay, paper 1 and paper 2. In geography, you see that the first 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is going to be paper 1, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday is going to be paper 2. So you're going to have two papers, and the third paper obviously is going to be practical for majority of the subjects. I suppose the third paper also is a theory paper for the mathematics as a subject. Now, is there anything else that you have to do? Yes, there are a few extra credit courses, okay, that you would have to do. The information regarding the extra credit courses will be, and of course, the total number of credits that you have to earn at FY level and SY level and TY level. All of this is going to be explained to you all once we settle down, and we are going to have what is called as the induction program. The vice principal will obviously, and of course, other faculty members will be giving you a glimpse of what you can do within the college. So we'll have to wait for the induction program that also should be coming up in 15-20 days time. So you would have an idea as to how much credit, what are the compulsory core papers, what are the extra credit papers, how many credits, and how do you score and go around all these things. So all these things would be say told to you all. But of course, given the situation that we are in a flux now, had it been a complete lockdown and we had been at our respective ends, this would have been faster. But as I see that we are not completely out of the lockdown, at the same time, we are not completely in the lockdown. So we are in a transit phase. And you'll see that transit phases normally do create a bit of confusion. I won't say absolute confusion, but yes, a bit of confusion. And we will have to wait and see as to how things move in which direction, and take our decisions accordingly. I would personally say that don't rush to decisions, and don't, particularly those who are living beyond 100 kilometers from SP College, I would ask you all not to take hasty decisions and rush to the college once again. So that is about it. Now, if you have any questions regarding whatever I have spoken till now, you can just put it up in the chat box, and I will try to answer to them in my capacity. So if you have any questions, I'm waiting for such questions, or you could unmute yourself and you could ask your questions verbally also. If not, then we will move to the next session that we are supposed to be doing. Okay, the basic premise remains that if you see that I am off the screen, it would obviously be because of my internet connection. So somebody would call me. Okay, don't paste a message in this, because once I'm out of this scenario, it would be difficult for me to know whether I am into the session. So one of you all could just call me, give me a call. I keep my cell phone just next to me for that purpose. Sir, those who are 17 are not. Yes, I can understand that. Those who are 17 are not allowed for vaccination. So for them, what are the steps to be taken? Yes, I will obviously forward your concern to the college authorities, and let us see what answer they have for this particular aspect. And I believe that the news regarding vaccination of college students is concerned is more so related to this. Is it compulsory that you need to have a gap of 45 days? Now, I am not in authority, in that medical authority, to advise what should be the gap between two vaccinations. So we'll have to wait on that also. As this whole session is being recorded, the messages also are being recorded. So I will, after the lecture, I will obviously forward these messages to the higher authorities. There is one more question asking whether there is a hostel facility. Yes, there certainly is a hostel facility. There is a gents hostel and there is a ladies hostel as well, and you have two different directors for that. Detailed information will obviously be posted on the website. I think the contacts of those superintendents or rectors is there on the group, on the website, sorry. But I would advise that don't hasten up and call them up and disturb them, basically because there are no directions from the government to start hostels. So, and that's why I'm saying that those who are staying far off would still have to wait. Then there is one more message saying that when offline classes will start, then online classes will also be conducted for students who are not able to come. Obviously, it has to be, even if offline classes have started for students of higher secondary, that's 11th and 12th. Let me tell you that the government allows only 50% occupancy, and given the classroom sizes that we have, at an average in the colleges, you'll see that if all the students come, it would be a difficult scenario for the colleges, not only SP College, every other college, to accommodate all these students in the respective classrooms. So government has asked for 50%. So in that case, even if we start offline, it's not going to be the whole class in one classroom as such. And having said that, it would possibly be every alternate day. Now, all this is going to come up in a very difficult and a confusing and a complex scenario of about how we are all going to manage it. But I can say one thing, that while we are going to have offline classes, we would certainly be having online classes also. As far as I'm concerned, I would be keeping this very laptop in front of me while I have the board behind me. And let us see how we can connect in those conditions. Yes, tough times, and I would say difficult to adjust, but we would see how and what is to be done in times to come. Then Kunal says that is RT-PCR necessary for the students who are outside Pune district? I would say if you are vaccinated with both the vaccines, then I don't think RT-PCR would be required if the vaccination has been in near past as such. And let us all be very cautious, and let us all be watching for what scenario comes up at the government level. Once again, when we speak about the government level, from the human geography side, I understand that when instructions regarding COVID have been coming in the last 1.5 years or such, it is so that they come at 3 levels, isn't it? You must have seen that it's coming at 3 levels. What are these 3 levels? The central government comes up with a notification, the state government follows, and accordingly, the local municipal authorities also follow. So it's a 3 hierarchy system. So we have to keep an eye on all of them. And obviously the most important one is the most local one, the municipal authority around them. So what are the guidelines that have been issued by the municipal corporation in Pune would be the most important one for us, basically because when the central government is going to come up with narratives, it could be for the whole of India. And of course, the scenario of COVID in whole of India is going to vary. So we have to adjust accordingly. A similar thing would happen with the state government. When state government comes up with some instructions for us, it could be different for Mumbai, for Pune, for Gadchiroli, for Nagpur, for Nashik, for Kolhapur, for Aurangabad, Ahmednagar, and so on and so forth. So we have to be very cautious about all these things. And that's why I'm repeatedly saying that those staying beyond 100 kilometers from Pune should not hurry to come down. We would obviously be making arrangements so that students offline and online would be, attending the same level of classroom teaching as such. So this is a few of a bit of information for you all. May I know if online lectures will be what? Somebody has posted. Okay. Will be continued after college starts because a few of us are born in 2004. Yes, as I said that I would be forwarding these messages to the authorities, and let us see what they have to say about this. I've said this earlier also, but for the benefit of all of you all, I've just repeated it once again as well. Okay, as we know, and at your level, at our level, at every level, there is a bit of confusion. And let us not make things more complex by just gathering together for no reason. Let us stay at our ends and let us see how things move in the time to come. Okay, I believe that we should stay calm at least till Diwali, which is not more than 20 days away. And let us see after Diwali. So it say the 5 days of Diwali and 20 days of for to go for Diwali. So 25 and settling down after that. So let us wait for a month's time, I would say. If I'm asked for a personal opinion, let us wait for a month's time, and say on the 12th of November or 15th of November, let us see how and what the scenario is, and let us go into that particular mode and adjust ourselves accordingly. I would say that I've been speaking about all these things for more than 20 minutes now. So let us go back to understanding what we were doing last time. And as I said, that I had asked you all to uh, sort of come up with say download this particular app and keep checking what is happening to the sunrise and sunset timings. I've been doing it at my end, and I see that the sunrise and sunset timings are equal at some places, and these places actually are moving towards the equator right now. Say at your screens now, you could see towards the left hand side of the slide, I have 4 places from India, and you'll see that they are moving south. Okay, they are moving south from Bangalore to Shimoga, Coimbatore, and Thiruvananthapuram. And I was thinking of what I should be doing after that. So I thought of looking at 2 places in Colombo, in Sri Lanka, sorry. And you'll see that uh, Colombo and Kandy, both in Sri Lanka, had their equal days and equal nights following Thiruvananthapuram. Now, unfortunately, I've not been able to put the dates here. I'll do one thing. I'll just check the dates of these, and I will obviously put them here. But I could say that this is day after day, most of them. It so happens that for a couple of days, the rising and the setting of the sun stays constant at a particular place. Say, for example, on the 10th and the 11th of October, it happened at Hatyai. Now, Hatyai is basically a place in Malaysia, and it is a bit south latitude as compared to Colombo. You move east of Colombo into Malaysia, and then you move a bit south. You'll see that you'll find this particular place. For certain, if you are using the weather and radar app as such. And you'll see that today morning I shifted from this place to this place, Kota Bharu, which is again a place in Malaysia. And you'll see that for today now, this place has a sunrise at 6:57 and a sunset at 18:57. Say probably in a couple of days, we could have Singapore also. I'll keep adding those dates. What is another interesting thing that we can note is the timings. You'll see that here it was 6:19, then it came to 6:17, 6:10, 6:10. Okay, now as you move out of India, there is a bit of change, you'll see, because we will be studying that at a later point of time, probably in our practicals, that the standard times for different countries is different, but not much different between India and Sri Lanka. So you will see that it is more near to our times as such. But you'll see that the change has again happened when we moved to Malaysia. And when we move to Singapore in a couple of days, you'll see that the timings would again be a bit different. So it would again be interesting for us to study all these things at a later point of time as an activity, as an individual activity. And that's why I keep asking you all to say download this app and try to play with this particular app. Okay, this generation is very, I would say, accustomed to the Android phone, so you could do that as well. Anyway, so that's all for today. I will go into the details some other time. This is something that we discussed the other day, last Wednesday, that these would be the 4 screens that you get once you scroll upwards or scroll the screen upwards in the same app, that's weather and radar as such. Okay, then coming to a bit of the history of geography, I would rather say, I would like to put it in that particular way. And having said that, okay, we often wonder who came up with this particular word, geography. Okay, so it's Eratosthenes who came up with this particular word. He was a Greek mathematician, and you'll see that all these people during the Greek and the Roman times, you can't actually call them as geographers or mathematicians. They were people who were studying many things at one time, and that's called as a polymath as such. Now, what is he to do? You'll see that Eratosthenes lived between 276 and 195 BC. He is called as the father of geography because he termed or coined the term geography from the Greek words meaning earth. That's graphe, and of course to describe. Okay, graphe meaning describe, and so the basic word geo meaning uh, the earth as such. He is a person who is supposed to have accurately estimated the diameter of the earth using geometry. And this is where this guy was placed. And you'll see that those who follow a bit of philosophy and ancient history as such, you'll see that we have done Pythagoras as in our geometry in mathematics, and you'll see that amongst these people he is supposed to be the senior most, and followed by Socrates and Hippocrates, and Plato is another word, another name, a popular name that we tend to hear regularly, Aristotle, and then you have Archimedes, again known for the Archimedes principle that we learn in science, and then Eratosthenes, and then you have Hipparchus. Okay, so they lived between the time 600 BC to around 100 BC as such. What were these people doing? You'll see that these people were indulged in a lot many activities. This is an interesting diagram that I wanted to put in front of you all. You'll see that all of these people, now these names are the ones that we have just seen earlier, and all of them tried to make an attempt to measure the circumference of the earth. And here you have the true circumference of the earth, which is around 40,096 kilometers. At an average, we know that the equatorial circumference and the polar circumference is a bit different to each other, but the average circumference. And you'll see that the attempts of all these people who, I'll just take a call. I don't know who this is. I am online, I suppose. I don't know who this is. Hello. Yes. माझं लेक्चर चालू आहे, नंतर कॉल करा. Sorry, that was some inquisitive student asking about admission. I would be attending to that later. What you can see in front of you is that most of them got the circumference of the earth right right in the sense larger than the actual one. It is only Ptolemy. Ptolemy is a well-known name in geography, basically because he's supposed to be, he's called as the father of maps. Okay, his estimation was lesser than the normal or the actual circumference, but other than him, you'll see that Poseidonus is someone who came very, very close to our actual circumference. Then Eratosthenes, Archimedes, and Plato, okay, are in an increasing order of the total circumference around as such. Now, just for a moment, what I'm going to do is I will zoom out, and I think there are a few comments, and that's why I would like to come back to the comment section. Let me see if I have any comments. Sir, can you share this PPT? I don't know why students are so aggressive about collecting PPTs. I don't know how many people of y'all who would actually look into this. Yes, I would be sharing this PPT. Have no doubts about that. But before that, please go through and try to understand what I'm trying to say for the day right now. Anyway, so going back to what we were doing is this. Now, how did these people actually come to know about the or try to estimate the circumference of the earth? And let me tell you that there is a lot of geometry involved in this. Once again, somebody is posting. I would say that instead of posting messages, you could, in case you have any difficulties, you could unmute yourself and let me know, because as I say, once I shift out of the once I shift into the PPT mode, I'm not able to see your messages. This is Chinmay Agre who has raised her hand. Please unmute yourself and ask you what your question is. Chinmay. Chinmay, you have raised your hand. You are wasting my time. You are wasting the whole class time. We have 60 students around us right now. At least answer, have the courtesy of saying that, sir, I have no problem. Okay, fine, fine. Look, she says it was by mistake. Now, let's go back to, yeah. How did these people do? As I said, that they would be using a lot of geometry, and this is something that you might have seen in your geography textbooks, in the sense that there was this person who was in Egypt, and both these places, Alexandria, we all know that it's basically at the mouth of the delta of the river Nile, and then there is a place called as Seine, which is to the south of it. Now, what they did is they tried to measure the angle that the sun's rays make onto the surface, and you can see here what they have been doing, that there was a day of, obviously there must have been a day as the perpendicularity of the sun's rays shift, and we are going to speak about that at a later point of time. But you'll see that as far as Pune is concerned, it's somewhere in on the 12th or 13th of May, if I'm not mistaken, wherein you have what is called as the zero shadow day. If those who are not heard of the zero shadow day, you can go on to the Google and Google for zero shadow day for your place, and you'll find that the zero shadow day and date for different places on different latitudes is different. For places on the same latitude, it is going to be the same day, but places at different latitudes, it's going to be on different day. So what they did, that they had this well in Seine, and they waited for the day wherein the sun's rays used to touch the bottom of the well at this particular place. Now, at a distance from this particular place towards the north, they had a library in Alexandria, and in front of this library, you had this pillar. You can see that pillar in front of you. And what they did is they tried to connect those lines. Okay, you'll see that they tried to connect the lines of the place where the pillar is and the place where the say the well is, all the way to the center of the earth. And they found out that the angle between these two places was equal to the angle that the sun's rays was differentiating in the sense, here the angle is absolutely straight, that's 90 degrees, but it is not 90 degrees at this particular place because of the curvature of the earth. Now what they did is this angle, how much is the difference in the degrees? I hope you understand. I know many people and students who take geography dread mathematics, but at undergraduate level, we have a combination of math, stat, and geography as well. For others who actually are from B group, and yes, I am one of you who actually dreaded mathematics. Eventually, I found out that mathematics is just an application, and we should not be worrying much about it. But then coming to the fact that while it was 90 degrees at this well in Seine, it was not 90 degrees, it was actually a bit of an angle theta, let us say, at Alexandria. Now, if we are believing that the earth is supposed to be round, and if we say that there is a difference in angle of so many degrees, say x, y, z, theta, whatever it is, so many degrees between these two places, let us say it is 10 degrees, and the distance between these two places is 100 kilometers. Okay, now what you would do is you would equate those 10 degrees to 360, in the sense, if a difference of 10 degrees in the angle of the sun's rays is equivalent to 100 kilometers on the ground, what would be the total kilometers on the ground if we equate it or increase this particular degree from 10 degrees to 360? So it's going to be into 360. So 100 kilometers into 360, so that would be somewhere around 36,000 kilometers if my mathematics is not wrong. So that actually is going to give you the whole circumference of the Earth. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. Now let me tell you that this variation, how is it that these people who were so scholarly uh, got so much of variation as far as the circumference
Sir,
is
could you
concerned?
please
Let me tell you.
explain that part again?
Okay, sure. I'll do it for you. I was a bit sure that somebody would come up with this particular query. I have no issues in explaining that to you. Now I would go, since you have come up with the query, I'll once again go into a bit of details of this. Now this is supposed to be the circumference. Okay, these are two places. Okay, now this is a bit exaggerated, I would say. If you actually go to the scale, okay, that which is an important term for geography. If you remember, we said that scale मराठी मध्ये आपण त्याला प्रमाण असं म्हणतो. But if you go to the scale, and if you have these places would be what I think it was 840 kilometers to be precise. I'm not very sure, but 840 kilometers on the actual surface of the Earth will not be showing this particular way. It's going to be showing a very small distance. But as I said, we are taking a bit of geographical liberty, and we have now what we have done is we have identified two places. One place is Alexandria, which is actually at the mouth of the delta of the river Nile. Okay, we'll go step by step. See that you please see that you listen to it and try to observe what I'm saying, and you see in front of you a bit carefully. So this is Alexandria. You go around 800 kilometers south of Alexandria, you have a place called as Seine, and this Seine had a well in it. Now, let me also tell you that for this uh, well to have perpendicular rays, I know I'm confusing a bit you a bit, but then that is how we have to actually open up the difficulties that we tend to not understand in the whole process as such. So while I say that this is a place wherein the sun's rays are touching the bottom of this well, that means it has to be perpendicular. Believe me that there are going to be very few places on the surface of the Earth which would be having perpendicular rays of the sun, which I have just said that zero shadow day. All these places are between 23.5 degrees north and 23.5 degrees south. So definitely this place also had to be within the tropics, the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn also. Now, we are not sure about Alexandria. I would give you this as an exercise to check whether both the places are within, or one of them is beyond the Tropic of Cancer. Having said that, if you remember, I did say that, have you ever asked your geography teacher earlier that why is it that 23.5 degrees north and south Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, and 66.5 degrees north and south Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle, when you add them, the total comes to 90 degrees. There is a very say interesting geographical fact about this, which we will come to later. But then, as I said, that on the day, let us say day X, or let us say today's date is 12th of October. On 12th of October, the sun's rays are perpendicular at this place, that is Seine, and that is why you'll see that this is a zero shadow day, let us say, at Seine. So because of that, what is happening is that the sun's rays are reaching the bottom of this well. But it so happened that a few hundred kilometers north of Seine, where you had Alexandria, it was not so the case, in the sense that the altar, the pillar that was in front of the Library of Alexandria, had a shadow. It should have been a zero shadow day, but it had a shadow. Now, how long was that particular shadow? So what they did is they tried to cut an angle of the sun's rays coming from the top, and of course the angle at which the altar was standing. Okay, see what the scenario at Seine is, that this is the well and this is the sun's rays, or these are the sun's rays. They are parallel to each other, and that's why it's going to the bottom. It's not happening at the altar in Alexandria, basically because this is how the altar was standing, and this is the angle at which the sun's rays are coming. So this angle, theta, x, y, whatever you would call, delta, alpha, between the sun's rays and the altar is basically the difference. What was this difference? That the distance between the angle equates to the distance between these two places, isn't it? So if, as I said, that if the angle is 10 degrees and the distance is 100 kilometers, or let us say 1,000 kilometers for our say convenience as such. Okay, 10 degrees is equal to a difference of a difference in 10 degrees of the radiation angle is equivalent to 1,000 kilometers. Now, if you equate this to a full circle, how many degrees make up a circle? 360 degrees make up a circle. So if 10 equates to 1,000 kilometers, 10 degrees equates to 1,000 kilometers, I would rather write it down that 10 degrees is equivalent to 100, or rather 1,000 kilometers. Now we are going to stretch it to 360 degrees, what makes up the whole circle. So it's going to be 1,000, that's for 10 degrees, into 360. So this is going to be 3, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4 0. Of course, this is an hypothetical number, but it shows us that the circumference, that's this part, would be somewhere around 3,60,000 units. Okay, if you are going to say kilometers, then this is going to be kilometers as such. That is how they try to estimate the circumference. And as I said, that this estimation in circumference went wrong for, or I would say had an error. I won't say it went wrong. Okay, it had an error of so many places, that Plato and Archimedes and Eratosthenes had an error, was basically because of the fact that the surface of the Earth is not an absolute, I would say, a circle or a sphere as such. In fact, till very recently, man believed that the Earth is actually flat and not a sphere, and then they said that it's a circle. But then a circle is a term which is used in 2 dimensions, so that said that it was a sphere, and very soon they realized that it was not even a sphere, perfect sphere. It is a bit flattened at the poles and it is a bit bulging at the equator, basically because of the fact that during the formation of the Earth, the centripetal force may have been, centrifugal force, sorry, may have been more along the equator, and that's why the equator led to a bit of a bulge. So you'll see that it's around 44,000 kilometers is what the equatorial circumference is, and the polar circumference is a bit less as compared to that. In fact, now you'll see that I'll write a word here, GEOID. This is a new word which geographers coined. And what is this? If you go to Google, or if you search for this word in a dictionary, you will find that this is a special word which is coined for the shape of the Earth. Okay, shape of the Earth. In fact, tomorrow I'll get you the actual shape of the Earth. Those who would be more anxious to know what actually a geoid is, it's basically that Earth or what the Earth looks like once you take away all the water. I would in fact suggest you that you go to Google and you type the word geoid, and then you select images. Okay, or you can take all also. You can take images, and in the images you'll immediately see the say what actually the geoid means. And anybody doing that first could post the image of that in our WhatsApp group after our lecture gets over in say around 5 minutes time from now. So these are a few interesting things that in geography that I wanted to share with you all. When we study geography, what exactly are we studying? Okay, there are 5 themes around which geography tends to be studied. Okay, if you remember the say the definition that we tried to coin for geography, it's not an absolute definition, but then the definition that we tried to coin for geography, the fact that it is say the study of the Earth in space and in time. So the first theme is actually what we are referring to called as space, location. You're going to do this in your practicals in detail. You might have done this in your earlier geography classes, but then we are going to go into a bit of more details of this. We're trying to understand this. When we speak about location, there are 2 aspects to a location. There is an absolute location and there is a relative location. I would not be investing much time in trying to explain what actually an absolute location and a relative location is. I believe you have done this earlier on, and you are going to do this once again in the practicals also. Then you'll see that we study a particular place, okay? And as I said, that we spoke about a word called as scale in geography. You'll see that the study of the earth is on the largest scale. Study of a particular place is on a much micro level detailing. Now, when we are studying a place, what exactly are we doing? We are studying about its natural characteristics. We are studying about its human characteristics. What does this mean? Natural characteristics in the sense whether there is a river, whether there is a mountain, or whether it is a mountainous plain, whether it has a rugged topography, smooth topography, plain topography, whether it is urban, whether it is rural, is considering the same place in the human aspect. Okay, you'll see human characteristics. What exactly do human characteristics mean? It is whether we are seeing that you have a rural, this place is rural, this place is urban. And as a matter of fact, we know that there is a continuous interaction between man and his environment. So the third theme that a student of geography tends to understand is how do people interact with the environment, in the sense, how do they use the environment, how do they adapt to the environment, how do they modify or change the environment as. Okay, so that is another thing that is done through geography as such. And then you'll see that adaptation would include, modification would include movement. If it is very favorable, you'll see that a number of people will come and stay at a particular place. If it is not favorable, they will move out of that particular place. So movement of people, then movement of goods, movement of ideas, okay, into or outside a particular place is also considered as one of the major themes as far as geography is concerned. The regions, I would say, I just shift this forward. Okay, regions would be that you'll see that this word is at times a bit confusing, but understanding a region is, I would say, I'll give you an example that, okay, we call something as a climatic region. Now, what does a climatic region mean? In the sense, an equatorial region or a monsoon region or let us say savanna grassland or a hot desert or a cold desert. How do we identify a particular climatic region? It is based on certain parameters which are common for a particular area. Now you'll see that here, in fact, you'll see that this region is a political region. Okay, this is a political region. New York is divided into 5 boroughs. Okay, these are the 5 boroughs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is a more human division. Where what I'm speaking about climatic is basically a natural division. Okay, what does natural division mean? That, okay, what is the maximum temperature during the day? What is the minimum temperature during the day to start with? Then you take an average of the week, you extend that average to the month, and you say that what is the monthly max, what is the monthly minimum. Then you extend it further into a year, what is the annual max, what is the annual minimum, what is the range between this. All of this puts forth very interesting geographical facts, and using those facts, okay, that ranges and that values one, and then of course the amount of rainfall, etc., all put together. Okay, you'll see that, oh, a particular place, say for example, equatorial region. It's called as equatorial region basically because the max temperature and the minimum temperature are so unique for that particular area. The range in the temperature, the daily range and the annual range is again unique. Let me tell you that the annual and the daily range could be different. They could be same for different places, and that's why that's a very important factor used for classifying regions. Then you come to another interesting aspect is rainfall. Firstly, what type of rainfall or what form of rainfall, I would in fact first say, whether it is in a liquid form or whether it is in a solid form. Okay, obviously in colder areas it could be in the form of snow. In warmer areas it could be in the form of water. So that would be another distinguishing factor. Then how much of rain? Okay, it's going to be a huge amount of rain, it's going to be scanty amount of rain. Then what time of the year do you have the rain, whether it is between June, July and August, or whether it is going to be throughout the year. In fact, I could go at a macro level saying that whether it is spread throughout the day or whether it comes during a particular part of the day, All of these points are used to classify a particular region, and because it has been studied to that particular level, we have these climatic regions that we tend to study in our geography textbooks as such. So these are the basic themes, I would say, as far as geography is concerned. We would obviously be revising a bit of this tomorrow again, and I will be stopping right here now and returning back. If you have any queries, yes, we were able to do only what, 25 minutes, 20 minutes of geography. We were more into the common aspects of the COVID rules and regulations for the earlier 20 minutes, but that is also equally important. If you have any queries, I'm going to revise some part of this tomorrow once again, because I feel it needs a revision tomorrow. But if you have immediate questions, you can unmute yourself and ask me your questions. If not, if questions come up later, you could post those questions on our WhatsApp group. I will take it up for discussion in our next lecture. And of course, I've also told you all that those who have time after the lecture could just search for what a geoid means, and you could paste a picture of that particular geoid in our WhatsApp group as well. Any other queries also are invited in the WhatsApp group. I would try to extend your concern through the in the chat box, the concerns that I have seen. I would surely try and present it to the authorities, and let us see what answers they have for us. For today, we'll stop here now. I'll stop the